to the racks every week, keep craving that rush that you get when you flip to the next page. Life is better when you live in between Wednesdays. Yes, say, got a massive back.
What's up, folks? I'm your host, Konrad, on Wednesday Night Reviews, and today I'm joined by Alfonso Espinos of Studio Comix Press. Alfonso, thanks for coming on the show today.
It's my pleasure to be here. This is a beautiful Monday morning. We're doing a Wednesday night review. This is like we're talking to you from the future,
yes,
or maybe from the
are.
past. It doesn't matter. You're gonna, at the end of the day, when you finish watching this little interview, that is in the future. You are gonna learn a little bit more about these two crazy guys.
Absolutely, yes. So, Alfonso, I always start my interviews the same way. So for the people out there in YouTube land who have maybe never seen your face, they've never heard your name, they don't know what Studio Comix Press is.
How lucky.
Who is Alfonso?
Well, for those ones over there, how lucky they are, because they haven't gone through that yet. But who is Alfonso? Alfonso Espinos is this guy right here, crazy guy. A little bit of a printer guy, a comic book guy all over from many years. And here I'm living the now. This is Alfonso.
Beauty.
Yes.
And Alfonso, what is Studio Comix Press?
Well, when somebody comes and asks me like, what the whole thing is Studio Comix Press is. Sometimes it gets really easy to explain. Sometimes it gets really hard to explain, because Studio Comix Press is not just a person or a brand. It's a concept that I've been promoting for years. That is pretty much support this whole concept of creating comics, of making sure that you have accessibility for all the resources, that you love to do comics. I mean, not only that was the brand that I started all the comics that I printed back on. I'm talking about 10 years, 20 years now. So then Studio Comix is pretty much that idea that I started about 15 years ago, that now is taking shape in the way that I thought about 15, 20 years ago. This is Studio Comix Press is the result of everybody's work and interest in comics.
I love it. Then you know what? I guess my next question then is why comics? What about comics drew you to them? Like you said, it's been basically 20 years of from concept to where we're at now. So I guess just to start, why comics?
So many years ago, I mean, like when we're talking about many years ago, it's like the story of every person that you probably interviewed that dedicate their time to the arts or graphics or writing or dancing or singing. That is a developed skill that everybody has. Like everybody can draw, everybody can sing, everybody can dance. The only problem is that when we're kids, when we're little children, we are open to do all these little things. You draw, you jump, you crawl the tree, you do all these little things. But it comes to a time where you start adulting, like you start getting to doing things that is like, oh, I gotta go now to finish this. I gotta go and do groceries. Now I gotta pay taxes. Now I gotta do this, and then you forget to start doing all this stuff that you enjoyed when you were a kid, and those things that bring you joy. That doesn't mean that the things that you do now or things that people do now, they don't bring them joy. It's just simply that they didn't develop. Right? They didn't really work through it, right? So then when somebody comes around into the convention, it happens quite often, as you know, because we go to a few of these shows, Comic-Cons. But when people come around and they say, oh my God, you are an amazing artist. Well, I say like, probably you too. The thing is that you need to develop. This is something that with work and an interest, a person will develop, right? And I have seen people that they develop this interest, not only the interest, but the skill and the talent only by practice. I have seen them with really young to really medium to really old. So then that's a story that you will hear from everybody, where everybody started when they were super young. They were starting, writing comic when they were super young, and then throughout the years they never stopped. It was my case. I never stopped drawing. I start drawing when I was a little kid. I never stopped drawing, and that it gives me the access to do comics, to write them. I find them always really interesting. As you already know, and if anybody doesn't know, over there in Wednesday night reviews, I'm originally from Mexico. That's my background. This is my original background from Mexico City. I was born and raised for many years, and over there I started all these studio comics movement. That has been many years now, but I'm really like happy to see all the results. Again, the results that we're getting, right? So then, why comics? Why not, right?
You know what? It's a good enough reason for me. I love it. I guess for the folks out there who maybe haven't gone to your shop, what is it that you do at Studio Comics Press?
I wish I could do a little bit more right now. Right now, I wish I could do just a little bit more so then we can fulfill most of them little things and odds and ends that comic book creators will need throughout their creative process. Creating a comic book is more than just sitting down, writing the 24-page story, uh, and putting it out. Right? Most of the people, they think that I finally finished writing my story. I finally inking my work, and then now they're sitting down on their table waiting for that $1 million check to walk by. Right? It's like, hey, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting to be discovered. Right? And you know what? It's good. You know what? That's a good thing to do because then you are confident that your work is gonna be going somewhere. However, I know that my thing is gonna go somewhere, but I really want to reach out to that opportunity that might be there. So then, the process of creating comics is a long process, and sometimes it's not only a long process, but it's a really long lead process because then the artist gets into their head the idea of how to create the story, what's the next stage, the the panel that they are writing or that they're drawing for that sake in paper. That panel is it's an idea that is already tattooed in their mind, and then they're just putting it on paper, right? So nobody else can see that idea until the artist puts it on paper, right? So then that's when it makes it happen, and that process from the thought to the paper, it's a long process. It's a creative process, and most of the artists sometimes when people see the work at the end, they don't stop and think all the process that it has from behind. But this is the amazing thing, Konrad. This law, this thing, it doesn't only apply for comics. It applies for most of the things that we do, right? Like opening a business, doing a good morning welcoming at the shop, doing a podcast, right? Making a radio, doing the preparations for an interview. All of these apply for everything. So then it's just matter to kind of like see why. The question will be, why not, right? Why not do it, right? Like, why not? Let's do it.
Awesome. Then, you know what? I guess what I'll touch on next is every time I've come by the shop, and constantly on social media, you're always posting, having local comic creators table outside your store. If someone walks into your store, they will see almost right away a couple of racks of local indie comics. I guess I've got a couple questions about it, but the main one is, to my knowledge, in all the experience I've had interviewing different artists and creators and, doing my thing and going and checking out comic shops in general, you are the most, I want to say, avid or excited promoter of indie comics, right? I've gone into a lot of stores where they'll have an indie comics wall, or they may have a few indie comics and then like a whole bunch of DC, Marvel, Image, all the big companies. Your store, however, is nearly entirely indie comics, from which you help produce, obviously. Um, why indie comics? What makes you so passionate about them? What drove you to that?
So, like I mentioned, Conrad, this is a great question, by the way. This is a really great question. So then, think about this. This is like we already said, right? We already said in this conversation. Making comics is a process, right? So there's a whole long process. So, in my experience, because then also we gotta look into the whole part where creators, throughout their creative process, they have different experience that they might go through when they are having this experience of creating a comic, right? So then some people they might have a different experience because their conditions at the time when they're creating the comic is different than my conditions creating the comic, right? So my story is based on opportunity. That's everything. That's everything that has been happening. It's opening myself an opportunity to actually do things. So how I started it, it's fairly simple. It's just I at the beginning I started doing comics. I was drawing comics. I always draw comics, and then I walk into in Mexico City. I walk into a place, and then I knew that I need to get this thing reproduced. I need to get this piece of paper, whatever it was, a little piece of paper folded in half. It need to be reproduced and put together in people's hands. So the main question that I did at the beginning, and we're looking at 1993 or 1992. I don't know if it's a long time ago, but to me, it sounds like. I mean, it sounds like a time ago. So at that time, the first question to me was, how am I going to do this? And it was, well, the most obvious reason to do it, the most obvious answer to that would be just go to your nearest photocopy machine and, go to your Kinkos, go to your, well, Mexico, there's no Kinkos, especially 10 years ago, but go to your local nearest local place where you can actually have photocopies and photocopies. So then what did I do? I find a way to put together my first little booklet with literally photocopies. That's what most of the people do when they start doing these little ash cans, right? That 20 years later, they're $1 million because that's the first one that he did, whatever, right? But the point is, I did it. So then, okay, I got it done. Now what's next? Well, I need to put it on people's hands. How? And then starts another creative process in which you need to start thinking in which is the best way for me to put this in people's hands. So you need to make it accessible for everybody. And at the moment that you're trying to think in that creative process, you will find the roadblocks depending in which environment you are living on, right? I can tell you that right down in Mexico, the competition that I had back in the day, it's not even competition. The people that I was working with alongside, because then there were other guys that they were doing also their own comic book experience. Back on 20 years ago, we were discovering how to put together comics. We need to look at when I started to do my publishing, or when I started doing my first comics, printing and all this stuff in the story of Studio Comics, even before Studio Comics, the tradition of making a comic book, it was way different than the making the comic book right now, right? This opening of communications worldwide that the internet has opened, it's incredible because now, Konrad, you and I, we can talk through this little camera and then we can have a conversation about things that a passion to us, things that you are interested in, and things that I can tell you about that you might be interested in too. And this didn't happen 20 years ago. 20 years ago, when we have an idea or we want to interview someone, we need to go directly to the place, or we need to go directly to the setting, talk to the person, write it on paper, pass it to the editor, hoping that the editor will put it on the newspaper, and 4 weeks later, grab the newspaper and says, oh yeah, here's the interview that I talk about it, right? So that was the creative process. Now things have changed. And because that changed on the creative process for interviews, and that again applies for comic books too, right? The creative process to create a comic book now is faster now. It's a little bit more broader. It's a little bit more interesting how to do with the new tools and stuff. Back in the day, it wasn't like that. So then it was the point where a creator has this idea. Once you put it together, you need to look for outlets where you can promote this work. And sometimes those outlets, they're not accessible to you because they don't know you. right? So then now you find another roadblock. How I'm gonna know myself to this place. So how can Walmart carry my books? And then it's like, okay, let's start looking at what's the chances for me, who I need to talk to, what is the person that I need to reach to see if I can make it happen, right? What is the conditions? What is the contract? So these are the type of questions that when you create a comic book, right off the bat you say, oh, I wish I can have my comic book display in Toronto Comic Con, and I want to go to sit at San Diego Comic Con on the other side and sign autographs for $100. Okay, you know what? You are gonna do it. The question is like, how?
Yep.
Yeah, I want to know how, because if you manage to do it that way, I promise you that somebody else will manage to do it that way too, right? It's just like a formula, and the formula that I have used to create comics and open this outlet for comic book creators, it's a testing mode, because all comic book stores, or most comic book stores that we know around the place, they will have the same business model that they have for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a business model that it hasn't been changed for the longest time. And not only that, it's a form of business model that it has been caricaturized, if you want to put it like that, in a really special way that identify a comic book reader or a comic book lover in a special way for the broad society. So every time that you hear in any other mediums, TV, radio, movies, whatever, oh, this guy likes comics. So then now you have like a stereotype person who likes comics. But things have changed again, right? So then you look at that, things change again. And then suddenly, now you don't know who likes comics, because now comics is a widely available medium for everybody, right? So 20 years ago, when I approached a comic book store, 10 years ago for that regard, when I approached comic book store and I brought in my book based on the old business model that they have, and you said, hey, this is me, and I have this. Comic book says, are you Spider-Man? No. Are you Batman? Well, no. Well, are you Ren Stimpy? Well, I'm funny too. Well, you know what? If you are none or any of those, then the place for you is going to be right here. Right here underneath the desk, where I put the section of all the alternative indie special stories that they are not Batman, they are not Spider-Man, that they are not this, that they are not that they don't deserve to go there, right? On that place where I can be displayed. And then my next question to that person, for that regard, for 100 persons when I approached them, was why? Why I cannot be there? Or how can I go and be there? I want to be on there, and on that store, right? So it was always kind of like a conversation with comic book stores. Most of them were really nice. Most of them, they were really accessible to say, yes, we're going to give you space here. Yes, we're going to give you space right here, right? And your space is here. Your space is never here, right? Your space is never here.
Yeah, it's tucked
right
away.
Here.
It's down at the side.
It's right here. You know, you are good. You're here. But now this is when I come around and I have a comic book store. Now I can talk as a comic book store owner. Things that I couldn't do before, because before I used to be only a comic book creator. I used to do all Comic Cons, 20 years of doing Comic Cons from Mexico, Central America, now Canada, States. So I kind of like know a little bit of how to do a Comic Con, how to be over there. And I know how, I don't want to say I know, but I learned how the market works. And it can give you a pointer of doing how to not succeed, but maybe just make it happen there, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to a comic book store, I never had the knowledge because I never owned one. I never run one. I work for them. I work in Mexico back in my days. I actually, you know what? I lied. Years ago, with me and a group of friends, we put together a comic book store in Mexico. Really, really small. It lasted like 6 months. We were really young. At that point, think that I get a thing or two of what the experience is to have a comic book store. I wasn't on direct manage or control of certain things. I was just working over there, type of thing,
Yeah.
right? So you never get to see the back part of the comic book store. But then now that I own one, I can see all these little pieces and bits that it entitles to have a comic book store. And in a sense, okay, this is where I go. This is in a sense, I can understand this, the attitude of this generational group of people that they own comic book stores, that they haven't changed their model for so many years. They always have the same concept and ways to put things together, and it's very respectful for them. And because I did notice that early on the game, I said, well, if I'm not here to change anything, because it's a model that has been there forever. It's a way.
It's still working, yeah.
And it's still working because they still open comic book stores based on the same, the same thing. So instead of what if, right? Yep. That's the two questions that I make myself. Instead of what if, and this is Studio Comics, right? Now, instead of having Spider-Man and Supermans, what if we put all independent comics? I mean, it would be super cool. And instead of trying to promote always in the mainstream and Supermans and Batmans, what if we can actually have a place where you can actually display on the front screen your comic? It's right there. And then we have hundreds of independent comic books displayed right on the racks. And it's a new opportunity. Why not? I mean, there is... The main question is why not, right? The main thing is that if you don't want, like, if I don't want to do it, I promise you, Konrad, in the next little while, somebody else will do it. And this is not a race to see who does it first. This is just a way for us to do it together, right? Mm-hmm. There you go.
I love it, Alfonso, and I think, like, for me personally, when I first came to see your shop, it struck me as so different. And speaking to you now, I can see, like, mentally you're the way you think is definitely not the way, like, a normal comic book shop owner thinks, right? You're like, I want to promote this, I want to get these indie comics out, you want to help people, and I think what caught me when I walked into Studio Comics Press for the first time was you have so many indie books. In fact, I think you had a couple of, like, Batman books, a couple of older Spider-Man stuff.
Oh,
but yeah, a little bit. But, like, everything else was indie books. Like, you had books like Auric of the Great North. Oh, yeah. You had Gehenna Death Valley from Becca Kinsey, who I've interviewed. Like, you've just helped promote and literally create a lot of these comics from, like, a printing perspective. And it was just so cool to walk into a shop and not have the big companies be the thing, but the little guy be the thing. And that was the focus, and I loved that.
The thing with comics, Konrad, this is where another thing, that 20 years of being sitting down on the same, not on the same place, but in different areas of the same room, it will show you what the broad view of the whole room is all about, right? Because then what happened is that later on the day when I opened the store, and we're looking about, like, right now we're hitting on our year number 6 that we have this store open. 6 years.
Awesome.
I didn't know how we did it all these years. We just do it.
It just works.
We just do it, right? We just do it, and then we keep doing it, right? It's like a formula that we need to keep applying for us. So, in the sense of, like, when we do all these all the shows and especially on here in the store, like after 6-7 years, so, and seeing things on different perspectives, then we have to at some point open the door to those big publishers, with the Marvel, DC, your where's Batman? Well, it's right there, right?
Yeah.
Where's Superman? Well, it's right there. However, if you want to give yourself an opportunity to maybe learn something cool that is not necessarily Batman, that does not necessarily crawls on the walls, then we have, a really cool story from Graham, like Yuki versus Panda.
Yeah.
Oh, what other thing can we find? My kid is so young. Well, we have amazing stuff for kids, like coloring books from a local writer
Yeah.
and creator, Jeff Campbell, Mr. Cheney. Hey, I like stories that they're fun, that they're interesting. Well, we have something that we can recommend them for you, with Beanie Thompson and Beanie and Bob. I want something that is kind of scary. I like it. Well, we have amazing collective stories with Greg Highland and his Monster Atlas. So we always try to open the opportunity to the consumers to get an opportunity to get something new, but at the same time, the opportunity is over there for the creators to create something different, right? So there is the I'm I love what I this is one of the things that I'm gonna say. I love what I do. This I love it though, because then I come right here every morning. I have comics all around. I can read a comic at any time. I'm producing comics every day,
Yeah.
and I'm working with creators and the creative process every day, and I can give myself the opportunity to help somebody else that comes to the door, and say, hey, this is the solution that we want for you and for your project. It's not only for your comic, it's the project that you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the project might be, sometimes the project is, I want to print this comic. Sometimes the project is, I need to know how much it's going to cost me, right? Both projects are exactly the same. They require the same amount of time and interest, but the solutions or the actual end result of that project is on the people's hands who wants to perform it. That's pretty much what it is, right?
Yep. Love
Awesome.
it. Alfonso, you are so fantastic. It's so fun to speak with you. Um, then you know what? For the folks out there, so if there's a comic creator watching, who I don't know, like you said, has finished their script, maybe they've drawn it, or as a team they've written and drawn it, or whatever. Um, what is the best way for them to be able to get their comic made? If they came to you, what would the process look like for them to hand you the finished script and art and then actually get a comic book back?
Yeah. Okay. So this is one of the things I like. This I like when I talk to everybody. This is where I go. This is the important thing. When do you have an idea? This goes for everybody else, everybody out there that who's listening to this, and it's this Wednesday night review. Yes, that is reaching out to you right now at this moment. You have an amazing creative idea. You have a script. You finish inking your book. The lettering is ready. The files are colored. Now you are looking for a printer. You know what? Look for the best option that suits you. Okay? That is the main thing. You look for the best option that suits you. You don't have to run right away to come and see me. Okay? This is not a way that you need to explore what is the best approach for you, because sometimes that work that you just finished, that script, that page, that 300 graphic novel, that piece of art that you need, it needs a specific treatment that you have picture in your head how it's gonna look. Okay, and sometimes that picture on your head, it doesn't matches with the capabilities of a team or an equipment that it can be produced by you or for you. Okay, so this is what I mean at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I told you, I wish I could do more, because then with more, I can open more opportunities to all creators, right? We can help you producing your comic all the time. That is for sure, right? Right here we don't do cheap prints. Right here we don't work cheap. This is the thing. We're not the cheap solution. That is, we're not the cheap option, if you want to call it. We are
Mm-hmm.
a solution. We are a place where we find solutions for the project that you have. Okay, if the project needs elaborated solutions and need really cool outcomes, then we are here to help you every day. If you're looking for if you're looking for cheap stuff, we're not going to be able to help you because we don't do cheap
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Right? So this is where you need to know if you want something done, how do you want it done? And that will be the first question that I will ask the person who walks here with a comic book, with a script. Is like, okay, what do you want to do with this? That will be the first thing that they say, right? They come and say, hey, check it out. I just finished. And I have stand right here hundreds of times with creators that they literally walk into the store with their canvases, with their portfolios, with their books, with their scripts, and then we see it, and then we talk about like, show me your work, and then we'll go through the pages. This is fantastic. I'll give them a couple pointers, and then they go, and they might come back, they might never come back, and it's okay. This is at the end of the day, it's your choice to select who is the best person who's going to be handling your work, right? Is it a person who it's going to be reliable? It's going to be a team that is going to help you. It's going to team that is going to be always there answering your questions, making sure that they're passionate about not only what they're doing but your work. And at the time that they're putting it together is their main priority, or you want to just work it out with like a big printing place that sometimes didn't even look at what you're printing, and you are another number. Yeah. I'm not saying that all of them are the same. I'm not saying that all that they are a general idea about that. But the more that I'm getting deep into the printing world, right? Yep. And I'm discovering new techniques and new technologies on how to print stuff, on how to develop new techniques. The more that I look at the whole overview, that one thing that I didn't know, that printing is so cool, but at the end of the day, but at the same time, printing, it's also really risky and then requires a lot of your attention. So this is where I am at this point. So why us? I'm telling you, why not?
Awesome. And when it comes to getting comics printed, what does that process look like? So if someone's come to you and they've discussed with you sort of what they want, if you're a good fit for them and they're like, all right, let's print it, let's make it real, what does that process look like? Like, do you offer many different types of paper? Is it all one similar style? For myself, even, I'm curious because other than I own a printer and I can hit print and print something, I don't really know much else about printing and making comics become, real things. So what does that look like? Like, is there paper? Is there a specific type of ink, or is there different ink? And what does that look like?
It looks beautiful though. It looks not only that, it looks beautiful. It's just if you like these type of things, it's like a rabbit hole that it just goes deeper and deeper, and it just eats you all, because it's so many. Imagine that the paper mill that I'm working with, and I've been working for many years.
Oh, okay.
It opens the catalog of options in paper and cardstocks and different kinds of accessibility product, that is the raw product, that it gives us the option for us to open that options to the creator. So then somebody comes around and says, my book, I want it to feel like toilet paper, but a little bit thicker, but not like so thick. And it has to have like a little bit of a glossy cover, and then the covers have to be shiny, but not too shiny, about this big and about this long. And then they start giving you all these ideas, right? So then from all the broad catalog that we have access to it in papers, that is pretty much anything to everything. And the idea that the creator has, we need to find the best fit on the beam in the middle, right? Yeah. So that is the first step, right? Once the artist has finished their work and they're ready to print, that will be the next question. How do you want to print it, right? And we need to look at the catalog of paper, see if that fit is proper for what they want, right? So then you can come around and say, like, I want my whole book printed in gold plates. and it's like, what? Like, gold plates? Yeah, I want everything in gold plates. And it's like, okay, how we're gonna do this? And we gotta find a way to put it together, right? Recently, let's say recently, about like a month or 2 months ago, we finally acquired Konrad. This is something that it was I wouldn't call it a highlight, because I never thought in 1,000 years that we'll do something like that. We
Okay.
work really close with Arbor Benigheim, of course, Dave Sim, that is creator of Cerebus the Aardvark,
Yep.
tradition on Kitchen Waterloo. And with him, we worked together a project where we reprint Cerebus number 4 from the original run of Cerebus the Aardvark. And then we print the whole book in gold ink. The whole thing was printed in gold, beginning to end. I'm not lying. I think I have a copy kicking around here to show you. Let me see. Yeah, yeah. Maybe not. But it's somewhere around here. I know. I saw it not that far ago. Where is it? Well, this is okay. This is the book that we're talking about, but it was all in gold. Well, if I find some, I'll send you photos.
Yeah, send me some pictures and we can put them up for the people to see.
Yeah. So then we have and then just projects like that, right? And in 100 years, I never thought that we will be able to put together something like that, right? And it's very, very cool to see it happening, right? Things and projects with techniques that they are now new developing in the technologies. We have printed also artificial intelligence generated comic books from beginning to end. So this is the next step. Now the creators are telling the technology to write and draw the comic book, and we put it together here. We print it out, right? So then this is another thing, right? So technology, when it comes to printing the book, we can open the whole, because we have access to any kind of paper. We can print it on any kind of paper that you want. At the end, when we finally selected that paper, the materials that we're going to use for it, now we need to make sure that it's effectively produced for the end result that you're going to need. I mean, if you need 100 books and they're going to look all of them the same way, you need to make sure that the process, it works properly, so that everything works at the end. So what it means, what it comes with this is, when it comes to comic books and creating a comic book, in our end is selecting paper, making sure that the print quality goes right, making sure that the art comes in a perfect form, and this is all the technical parts that is kind of like the check mark for the creators, right? So then, let's check your files are on 300 dpis. That's the right size, that the ratio matters, and making sure that the page fit into the size that you want, making sure that the graphics come properly, that they look good. This is all these little check marks, the like little check boxes that we do in our list, that we checking it twice. Because it's December, but we're checking it twice every year, right? And then we're making sure that every single one of them things that it will require for your project, it will be there ready to go, right?
Beauty. Then you know what? We've talked about how to make comics and how your company sort of works and what it looks like. I guess I've got a couple of questions I want to ask, but I think the next one is an important one. Is the books that you've made? I'm kind of curious, because you've been at that specific store now for 6 years, or company. I don't know, because you're kind of a printing house. You sell comics too. It's a whole thing. How many different comics would you say that you've made, and what are some of the most popular ones? So if someone walked in and was like, I've never read a comic before, what should I read? So yeah, how many comics have you made total? And then what are like the most popular ones?
Well, Alfonso Espinos, without Studio Comics, he is a writer, an artist, creator of a title called The Night Spike. This is a comic book that I started out many years ago. This is, everybody will tell you, this many years ago, and this is what we did. I wrote in Mexico. I have a mini series on Mexico in Spanish that I've been trying to redo on English now. So I
Ah,
did over
okay.
there. So this is funny. It's a funny story that I keep telling this everybody. When I the Night Spike is a comedic superhero story based in these two characters, Spike and Bale, that they are like kind of like the other side of superheroes, kind of like a little bit of a mystery man. Do you remember that movie with
Oh
Adam
yeah,
Sandler, where
good movie.
superheroes were lame, right? Where it was like, really, how are you gonna save the world with these superpowers? Well, this is kind of like not my take on it, but it's kind of like if in a world, this is like the plot that I put together in a world that Night Spike leads, or the Night Spike series is developed. It's a place where everybody's a superhero, everybody's is good, but all superheroes are tall, handsome. Everything goes right with them because that's what superheroes can wear for years, right? You open a
Hmm.
book and then it's Clark Kent, handsome guy, full of muscles, has the perfect fit, works in new, so it's a perfect guy,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
you see Spider-Man. Oh yeah, everything is going wrong with the guy, but still looks good. He's not a look. And then you see my superheroes. Well, they are not handsome. They are not tall. Nothing goes right with them. It's the complete opposite, right? So the conditions for them happen all the time in a funny situation, a funny
Hmm.
outcome. So it's a base tradition in Mexico that comedy is something that we live every day. We work it out. It's kind of like a cultural thing for Spanish Mexican tradition, if you want to put it like that.
Yeah.
At least I know that there's a long tradition in communications, in TV, radio, a reading process, and then I picked it up. So I start putting my funny comics. I put it like that. When I finally came here to Canada, about 15, 17 years ago, I brought my comic book to my wife, right? And then I said, like, hey, read it. Like the first one that I rewrite and like I redrew it and I rewrite it on English. And I brought it, said, like, show it to her. Said, like, hey, this is the new issue, the first one that I have ever drawn here in Canada. So check it out, right? Because it's gonna be cool, and it's based exactly on the same way I was thinking back on the day, with the same comedy style that I was thinking
Yeah.
back in the day. And my wife started reading it at the time, and then she's going through the next page, and it's not laughing. It's not creating the results that I wanted it. And I ask why. Well, sense of humor. let, me,
Yep.
let me explain you something that I learned. Sense of humor, it's completely different when you tell a joke in Spanish and it has so much impact and power that when you tell it on English. And then it's suddenly, this one doesn't sound as funny on English that it sounds on Spanish. So here I am, myself, deeping myself into the rabbit hole, sitting down, watching the comedy channel, understanding why the guy is putting a pie on his face, why he's doing this stand up comedy the way it is. And again, it's a brand new world for me to learn something new. And then
Hmm.
it's more than anything how to expand the things that I was already doing, but how to
Yep.
make it now for a different market, right? So
Yeah.
the question was, why not again, right? Like how I'm gonna do it and how, right? This always the question is like not sitting down here and sitting down and scratching my face. I don't know how to do this. Is the question is like how I'm gonna do it so then now she can read, now they can read, now they can laugh, now they can enjoy the story, right?
Yeah.
So that's as a comic book creator. Those are the way that I started myself creating comics, and it hasn't stopped until the last couple of years. Um, I have been myself a little bit busier helping everybody else with their
Yep.
prints and stuff. That I have handed the project of the Night Spike, my baby, for so many years. I handed that project to a really capable artist and really good friend, Craig Ferguson, who
Oh,
is
okay.
right now actually working on the new issues of Night Spike that we have put together. So then
Beauty.
there's more Spike, there's more Bell coming to the world. We are just getting ready now, preparing. It has been, again, like a whole learning process, right? Finding the right person, making sure the person is working it out, making
Yeah.
sure that it's always a little bit of a work, but at the end, the outcome, I mean, if you know what to wait is, at the end of the light, there's something good. There's a pot of gold right there, right?
Yeah,
So,
and I
love
mean,
it.
yeah, and you're handing over your baby. You've created this. You've created Night Spike, and you're giving it to someone else to be able to
Right,
run off and make. So I
right,
can
right.
certainly understand, just like people who might want to have you print their books, you want to make sure that that writer is going to do your character justice, and keep the spirit the same.
Right, right. And this is, imagine that somebody comes around with their work. And this is the part where I hope that everybody's seeing. Because then when you come right here with your work, I understand every single piece on what the creative process is all about and how careful it is. Because I had my experience many years ago that I went to my printer back on many years ago, and I was already picturing my work, and I'm so excited. And tomorrow is the show that I gotta present the book, and I show and pick up my 1,000 copies, and it's like, and it didn't come out exactly the way that I wanted it, and it is like, oh, okay, well, this is a tough bullet to swallow, but you gotta learn from that, right? So then,
Mm-hmm.
because I know these little piece and bits of the situation that happened, that's what we go, just that little extra mile to help the creators to make sure that the work is coming out as close as possible at their idea that they picture on their head, right?
Yeah, I think, you know what, Alfonso, that makes you, because of your experiences, because of what you've done, you've made your own comics, you've printed your own comics, and now you're helping other people do the same. I think that makes you really unique because you, like you said, you understand from the creating point, like the point of let's write it, let's draw it, to let's get 1,000 copies printed.
Yeah.
You really do keenly understand how all of it works. Um, so yeah, I have no doubt that whoever comes to you and signs up and wants you to make their books, they're in good hands. Um, I do appreciate, Alfonso. We're coming close to when your store should be opening.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay.
I'll ask the same two last questions that I always ask for all my interviews.
Sure.
So the second last question is, what are you currently reading right now? So when
Oh
you're
boy.
not working, what are you enjoying?
You really want to know, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I've been reading a couple things. So then I've been reading a couple things. Right now, I'm reading one more time Mouse, Art Spiegelman. Uh,
Oh,
it's a good read. I mean, it's a really good read. Um, for As for things that I'm actually reading, I'm reading right now two really interesting things. From one is from Deepak Chopra, and the second one is from Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor recommends lots of books, but then there is one specifically was recommended by many, many. I follow him closely. Um, he recommended a book that is called Think and Grow Rich by
oh yeah, yeah.
Napoleon Hill. And I've been reading that book for the last 2 months, actually 3 months. And I really want to read this book. And as I'm reading it, I want to understand. So then I don't want to rush the learning perspective of it. So then I'm taking my time to read it. So that's the one that I'm reading right now. Great book. I got in my office at home. I sit down there and read a page or two, try to make sense of it, and then move on to the next one. And then, of course, like many other things that I'm working on. And then you are for a treat right now. Come over here, Paul Rush. We're in an interview right now.
Oh, we are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're with Konrad from Wednesday Night Review.
Hello there.
Hi.
This is Paul Rush.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
This is Paul Rush. It has been come to the team, to the Studio Comics team, as a great element for just helping all around. I mean, it has been a great addition here to the Studio Comics team. So then, yeah, I'm right happy that I'm around. But yeah, this is the two things that I'm reading: Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, recommendation by Bob Proctor, and then I have a couple of them by Deepak Chopra that we like to talk all the time.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Chopra specifically, like I used to work in a bookstore called Chapters.
Oh,
Many people know of Chapters, but yeah, and I will tell you, Deepak Chopra writes so much in so many different sections. It's crazy.
well,
Yeah.
I'll give you a fun fact. We just discovered the Virgin Comics actually printed. I'm gonna next time that I'm gonna post it though. We have it somewhere. We find out that I find out Deepak Chopra was doing a line of comic books with Virgin Comics of all creative new mixture on between the traditional Indian mythology and adapted into comics. They are beautiful. They're wonderful creation. Really indie, really special kind of run. Virgin Comics produced those when it's called Deepak Chopra. Deepak Chopra Presents, and they come the title. Beautiful.
That is so cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what, then, Alfonso? My last question for you for today
Oh, boy.
is simply gonna be, what do you want folks to know? What do you want the people out there to know about?
What do I want people to know about? You know what? I'll tell you. People need to know something, right? In general, these whatever we want to do, you can do anything you want to. You are capable of doing everything you want to do at any time. you can do it, right? It's just a matter of wanting to do it. And in order to do it, that will be just only one thing that is really gonna change this world, okay? And it's love, right? If you don't have those two skills, then you doesn't matter how much you really want to do things. Doesn't matter how much you really want to put a comic book store. Doesn't matter how much you really want to finish your story, or doesn't matter how much really you want to that new car or that new house or that new life, whatever it is. You can stop your thinking on the wanting. It's gonna happen the moment that you go and do it, right? And you need to make sure that you are really loving what you're doing. Otherwise, it's never gonna happen the way that you want. So if you have those two things aligned, everything can happen. Anything can happen. It sounds like magic. It sounds like something really weird that we experience here at the store, but it does happen. And that's where I say reach out to everybody else in there, and I'll say everybody's capable of doing it, right? Everybody has the skills to draw. Everybody has the skills to dance. Everybody has the skills to sing. Just as we said at the beginning, just we need to develop it. Everybody has the skills to love whatever they want to do. Everybody has the skills to do all the stuff that we can do. It's just a matter of wanting to do it and do it, right? So that's the two things. How I want people to know, we are here to help the people. This is the things that we do, and I hope that things will change for the future. I think that change have changed for the future, because if you are watching this, you will know. Where's the camera? Right there. You will know that in the past, an hour ago, we're talking about that. You will learn more about these two guys talking, and I hope that an hour later, after you watch the whole thing, you learn more about it. So there you go.
I love it, Alfonso. That was fantastic. I wanted to say absolutely thank you for taking the time this morning to come on the show.
Not a problem.
You were a joy to speak with.
Not a problem, Konrad. And for everybody over there at Interview, the Wednesday night reviews running every Wednesday. Don't forget to watch it again. And a quick announcement. This is a commercial. This is the only commercial that I'm going to do for us. Awesome. Every Monday, don't forget to listen to us, even today. CKWR 98.5 FM. We are every Monday on the radio, half an hour. So if you want to hear us to geek more around the comics and the things that we talk about it, Monday from 7:30 to 8, CKWR 98.5 FM will be there, and you can hear more about it. And we're open here from 10 to 5. No, 10 to 6, everybody.
Fantastic. And folks out there in YouTube land, absolutely thank you for taking the time to check out the show. Comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought of Alfonso, and we'll see you next time.
golden age to present, digest to oversize. Never miss new comic day, yeah, no surprise. So where's my no prize? Check the letter columns. Can't find issue 2? Yeah, collector problems, cliffhangers, mysteries, you need answers. When did Batman become Green Lantern? I get it, true believer, not lying, always up for an awesome summer crossover time.